I'll say we will begin. Good day. This transmission is called The Window, the Door, and the Gate. And we will explain this a little bit more clearly in the meditation that will go along with this transmission today, so that you may be better prepared for the 3-part transmission coming up in your year of 2023 in January, February, and March, called Becoming a Galactic Citizen, where we will take you through very specific exercises that will involve the window, the door, and the gate to open you up to greater probabilities of contact in the years to come. So, this will be more clearly explained in the meditation as a symbol, as a changing and a frequency shift of the energies required and the state of being and state of mind required to increase these probabilities of contact as you move forward in the window of open contact. The idea, in general, is that these 3 stages, the window, the door, and the gate, will shift your energy in very specific ways that will expand your ability, expand your awareness, expand your potential to step out of your typical reality and begin to blend and interact and interface with new levels of reality that are all around you all the time, but are mostly invisible to you now. These exercises, these permission slips we will deliver in the first 3 months of your 2023 will be designed for the specific purpose of allowing you to relax the barriers that have been created, the limitations that have been imposed upon your consciousness, that up to this point have prevented you from being able to see what is all around you all the time, to be able to expand your senses and become more sensitive to higher frequency and higher dimensional energies, so that you can begin to enter a new realm in which there are many more probabilities for interaction with different kinds of beings, not only extraterrestrial, but extra-dimensional and even spirit, to begin to dissolve those preconceived notions and preconceived barriers between what you typically refer to as physical reality and the other more refined, more rarefied realities that exist right here, right now, but which you pass through unaware. You may have given yourself the opportunity to experience little glimpses, little pieces, little moments of tapping into those higher realms, those higher dimensions. But the idea of the window, the door, and the gate as a permission slip, as a series of exercises, will refine your ability, if you are willing to align with it, to begin to perceive reality in a very different way, and to be able to perceive those that inhabit those other more rarefied levels of reality, so that you can begin to truly expand your notion of what it means to be a galactic citizen. So join us on this journey today, and we will, in the meditation, take you through an exercise to begin to prepare you for the upcoming 3-part transmission of the window, the door, and the gate. In return for the gift you are giving us of interacting with all of you this day, I ask, in what way now may we continue to be of service to you? You may begin with your dialogues and your questions if you so desire.
Hello and good day, Bashar. I had a question regarding physics we've discussed in the past. You have shared that the Fibonacci spiral is the active principle of physical reality, and that one way of looking at the higher mind, or the concept of oneness in physical reality, is to imagine infinite counter-rotating Fibonacci spirals And I was wondering if it would be accurate to say that every Planck spherical unit is a black hole corresponding to those counter-rotating Fibonacci spiral dynamics. And to understand how in your family sigil, the triangle with the Fibonacci spiral in the center corresponds to how physical reality actually comes into creation most efficiently.
You can consider the nodal points of the multidimensional, double rotating Fibonacci spiral to be a type of black hole, although that's not necessarily the most accurate word to use or term to use. But you can begin there, but it's the nodal points where the lines cross that are what you're referring to. The triskelion of my family sigil has to do with the principles of three in synchronicity, and the spiral simply represents the idea of the active principle of acting on your passion, acting as who you are. That's the sigil of the first contact specialists who connect to other worlds and actively initiate contact, actively dispense information.
And my second question is, I would be interested to know how specifically the double helix geometry of our DNA corresponds to interfacing with this black hole physics of expression, right? Is that idea of us blinking in and out every Planck time constant into physical reality? I would assume that's most initially or fundamentally expressed through the coding of our genetics in that Fibonacci expansion or propagation, and how the heart relates to that expression.
Yes, as we have said, the Planck time is the tick of the physical reality clock. Therefore, it's 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1 billions of times per second. So in a sense, yes, you are flickering in and out of the idea of physical reality, since it's just a projection of consciousness anyway. But that is the pace at which you have done so, because it represents the frequency, the vibrational frequency of the stepping down and transforming of spirit into an experience of physical materiality. You are DNA. You are DNA. In other words, the first manifestation of your physicality is literally the DNA spiral. That's who you are. That's what you are as a physical being. You surround yourself with a mobility unit you call a body, but you are the DNA as a physical entity. That's what you are. Again, the higher mind sends information in the terms of frequencies of energy. The heart acts like a drum, vibrating it back to the mind, and it takes its cue from the belief systems in the mind to determine in the DNA structure when you are most aligned with your true self and true vibration and when you are not. Good day.
Good day to you. Oh, what an honor. I can't think of any place I'd rather be than right here in front of you, dear Bashar, right now.
And neither can we, to be with you in this co-created experience that is a reflection of our passion. Please begin if you wish.
I'm going to dive right in to our relationship with all that is.
All right.
There was this show in the 80s or 90s. It was called Voltron, made up of 5 separate space explorers who joined together to form this super robot, Voltron. I mean, are we individual space explorers? And is all that is Voltron in a way? Maybe without us, God doesn't have a pinky or something like that?
As a simplistic analogy, yes, you are accurate. Everyone is made of what you call all that is, or God, or goddess, what have you, by any name. And the idea is that they are all reflections of all that is, and all that is everything, everyone, everywhere, everywhen. So yes, the individual components, as you say, the individual reflections make up the whole and issue from the whole, and the whole receives these reflections to know itself as the all that is.
Beautiful. Now, with that comes a slight existential crisis within me, per se. Um, it seems like part of me has a feeling almost like Voltron, like I need to save the universe and be the protector of all. But then part of me says, slow down, buddy. This is a reconnaissance mission. This is about learning, understanding, growing, and really learning more about yourself. Part of me says, and the other part of me says, you know what, you could do both. You could try to be a savior if that's your excitement, and then you'll learn in the process. But is there a right or wrong to any of this?
Nothing existentially requires saving. It is an earth term that is a separation, a limiting term of a relationship to the idea of your reflection of all that is. It doesn't save you. You don't need saving. It's about the idea of experiencing yourself on greater and greater levels, allowing yourself through process, through experience, to recognize that you are an expression of all that is, and that everything is an expression of all that is. And while you allow yourself to increase or expand your awareness of this, you actually become far more aware that nothing needs saving at all. It is all valid experience in whatever way, shape, or form it chooses to present itself. Do you understand what we are saying?
I comprehend. Yes, I understand. And you talk about the mirroring of, everything's a mirror basically of our inner selves and our beliefs. And our beliefs kind of create this matrix and our perceptions. Now, when we die, is it the same thing in spirit where our belief and perceptions create the afterlife? Or is there like a file system in the afterlife? Like Beetlejuice. Ever see Beetlejuice where they were like, you messed up this life. You go over there. You go over there.
Well, it depends upon what it is you choose to experience. All these things are possible experiences if you choose to go in those directions for your own reasons and your own purposes. The idea is it's not so much about beliefs, because you know things in the afterlife that you don't necessarily allow yourself to know in physical reality. And so beliefs are a system or a structure that take the place of your knowingness so that you can explore the ideas and decide what it is you choose to know and what it is you will allow yourself to choose beyond the physical reality. You set yourself up for a different series of choices in the afterlife, but it's not about belief in the afterlife. The idea is, again, you are free to choose whatever it is you believe, quote unquote, needs to be done, needs to be experienced for you to expand yourself in whatever way, shape, or form you decide to do so. Is this making sense?
This makes total sense. That's beautiful. It's in our beliefs. Now, when we talk about the idea of, let's say, evil, it seems like there's certain fail safes like built into reality. So the more evil that we see in the world, part of me feels relaxed about this, because when you see evil, it kind of like forces good to the surface. You know what I mean? It's almost like every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So those fail safes make me feel like everything's always working out.
In a sense, it is. Again, remember, to use a very crude analogy, existence is roughly 51% positive and 49% negative. The idea is that if you just relax into your normal flow, the current of creation will eventually pull you into the positive side, because that is predominant. The idea of what you call evil, or simply negative actions that impose segregation, separation, and limitational experiences upon your consciousness, are again mechanically for the purpose of you making choices as to what you prefer, making choices as to who you prefer to be, and what you prefer to choose as a recognition of your divinity, so to speak. So it's an opportunity, as they say in your reality. It's easier to see the light when it's surrounded by darkness. So they are both necessary on every level, except for the one, to experience the idea of finding what you prefer and experiencing what you prefer through whatever process you have deemed is necessary for your soul's expansion and growth.
That is beautiful. I'm gonna end right there.
All
But
right.
that was beautiful, and happy holidays to everybody. And we love you, Bashar. We love you, Daryl. We love you all.
Our
That was
unconditional love
beautiful. This
to you
this
as
made my
well.
month. This made
All
my
right.
this is a great present.
All right.
Thank you,
And to you, happy holy days.
and you as well.
Good day. Aveo.
Hello, Bashar. My name is Chris. I'm from Melbourne, Australia. And what I wanted to know is, I remember in one of your previous recordings, you mentioned that if we were to ever have a face-to-face contact with you, it would feel as though we are losing our sense of self. What I wanted to know, or my question is that because you are so embodied in light and so accustomed to it, whereas we are so used to the dark, and as a result, we're not accustomed to so much light, where it would feel so overwhelming and so overpowering that it would feel as though we're losing our sense of self? Thank you. Bye.
As we have explained, the idea is that human beings in their consciousness are quite compartmentalized and they hide things from themselves. Being exposed to that much light means there is no shadow in which to hide. And if you are not ready to face that integration within yourself, it can cause psychic shock. So, but euphemistically, yes, exposure to that much light, that high frequency before you are ready to integrate within yourself all the things you have fragmented, can leave you ill-prepared to face that high vibration. So, we will be gentle with you until you get used to the light within yourself.
Hello, Bashar.
Good day, good day.
It's really an honor to speak with you today.
And you as well, for us.
My question is regarding synchronicity.
Yes.
And a type of synchronicity. And
Yes.
I'll just give you an example.
Yes.
About a month ago, I was taking down some recycling to the recycling bin, and a woman approached me and said that she wasn't feeling well and needed help getting home. So I ran upstairs and I got my phone and I ordered her a taxi. And we waited for the taxi for about 15 minutes. And then it came and I explained to the driver that she wasn't feeling well and she went on her way. But as I was going back upstairs, I realized a moment on either side and we would have missed each other completely because I was just taking down some recycling. And I have moments like this often enough that I notice it. So I was wondering if you could give me some insight as to why I have these types of synchronicities.
Why shouldn't you? Everything is an orchestration. You are allowing yourself to be more aware of the orchestration of how things encounter one another, how things come together for different reasons and different purposes. It is an expression of your willingness to be of assistance, even to those you don't know who may require some assistance in life. So the idea is that you're allowing that to become more transparent to you because of your willingness to be someone who can be of assistance to people who may need it.
Thank you. That helps a lot because sometimes I wonder, is it part of our purpose? Meaning, is it part of our assignment to do things like that?
It can be specific in that way, or it can simply be your willingness to open up and recognize more clearly that everything is synchronicity, everything is an orchestration. There are 1,000 examples that happen every day to everyone. They may not be aware of most of them, but they are all orchestrations. There are no accidents. You're simply becoming more transparent and more aware and allowing reality to become more transparent in the synchronicity that surrounds you all the time.
That's wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yes, you are so welcome. Anything else?
That's it. You've been
All
very
right.
helpful.
Thank you very much. Aveo.
Aveo.
Hi, Bashar. I have two questions. One is if you can please provide very elaborate guidance on how to recharge the brain when I feel very strong brain fogness and brain fatigue. And the second is how do I heal my brain after narcissistic abuse? Thank you.
As always, examine your belief systems as to why you would hold on to the experience, what you get out of it. Take the time to go within in a quiet, perhaps meditative state, to examine and explore with great honesty within yourself why you would keep holding on to the effects of a narcissistic experience of abuse. Because you must be getting something out of it, either again in a belief that you are not worthy to go forward beyond it, or that you fear something worse will happen if you try to go beyond it. So take the time and relax and refresh, maybe even immerse yourself to some degree in water that's comfortable for you, and just float with the idea of why you might be holding on to, what reason you would create within yourself to hold on to an experience that you do not prefer. Because the only reason you would hold on to it is because you're choosing to, because you think somehow you're getting something out of it. So learn the lessons within and let it go.
Oh, hello. Thank
Good
you.
day. Good day, good day.
Very excited to be here to co-create this with you.
As are we.
Thank you. My deep appreciation and love for all that you have given. Thank you so much. I would like to ask a question in regards to the children and on your world, how you approach teaching them the birds and the bees, if you will, and how you might suggest on our world and our society the best way to do that, to teach them these things.
Well, first of all, remember that in our society, we are wholly telepathic. Mm-hmm. So there are things that are simply innate because of the environment that the global telepathic link has created and allows our children to simply absorb information synchronistically at their own pace, at their own rate, when it is appropriate for them. So that happens almost automatically in terms of the downloading of certain things, certain forms of knowledge that they may require to understand the society they have chosen to be born into. On your planet, however, obviously there are various ways of communicating a variety of things. Now, it always starts with what we have already suggested in terms of the primary important steps that children require on your planet in order to be appropriately educated as to how to function in your earthly society to great advantage. Mm-hmm. And again, it starts with the idea of the parents or teachers, the adults, being creative and imaginative enough to create a safe space, be it a simulation or some sort of setup that allows children from a young age to understand the consequences of their actions. This then allows them to learn the idea of equality and respect, and the idea that every action has a equal and opposite reaction in some way, shape, or form, and to learn to make constructive and positive choices so that they may create positive and constructive consequences that benefit not just themselves, but everyone, because they have to be taught how to look at a holistic system rather than just looking at things as a collection of independent parts, although both to some degree are necessary. The idea also is to teach them that they are as powerful as they need to be to attract whatever they need in life synchronistically in perfect timing without having to hurt themselves or anyone else in order to do so. And notice that we said what they need not necessarily what they want, which doesn't always align with what they truly need. But if they are taught that if they get exactly what they need, they will have a life fulfilled and a joyful life, then they will begin to understand the principles upon which reality actually works in a way that benefits them. Also, anything that you deem is necessary for them to learn to thrive in physical reality, find a way, again with your own creativity and imagination, to help them learn the lesson by adapting the lesson to their excitement rather than attempting to squeeze their excitement down into the lesson and limit it. If they are taught how to learn things based on what they are already excited about in their language, so to speak, then they will be eager to learn. And with these principles, along with teaching them the idea of the formula, then they will be able to grow as adults in a mature way, respecting all, respecting themselves, and what will come naturally in their behavior will be a way to experience any kind of relational encounter, be it sexual or friendly or otherwise, or business, in a manner that allows there to be a balance for all, a respect for all, an equality for all, and those factors will synchronistically guide them into the appropriate behaviors and actions that will allow all forms of relationships to be positive. Does this answer your question?
Yes, I think it does. Thank you.
Yes. Anything else?
I have one more question, if possible.
Yes.
I would like to, I have been recently discovering what my highest excitement is, kind of taking an inventory of my life and what I've been doing, and realizing that my most excitement is I really would like to be, or somehow be, an ambassador with non-humans and those star families that are helping humanity to raise their vibration. I would like to kind of work to help acclimate humanity to co-living together somehow.
All right. Well, again, your creativity and imagination come to the forefront in this by creating programs that anticipate when such things, such encounters will be possible for you during the idea of open contact. So you can prepare in a variety of ways if you are imaginative and creative. The idea, again, to remember when we talk about acting on your passion, and when you say my highest passion, for now, because your passion can change its expression many times. But the idea is to remember that when we say act on your passion to the best you are able. So if the idea right now is that there isn't a physical representation of those encounters that you could be interacting with, do what you can to create the template for it, to create a process for it. So use your imagination and creativity and take it as far as you can until you have taken it as far as possible within your physical reality for right now in terms of what is allowed, what is happening, what is not happening, and then look around for the next most exciting thing. Even if it doesn't seem connected, the excitement tells you that it is.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you can't quite really make a mistake somewhere if you are choosing from moment to moment, so to speak, your highest excitement. If something is not your most highest excitement, but you choose it, your synchronicities will guide you back.
If you are willing to learn the lessons from why it was chosen and explore the belief systems that would have caused the choice to be made, then yes, it's not a mistake. You are giving yourself an opportunity to clear yourself out of any misaligned belief systems that don't belong within what you prefer to be.
Okay. Yes, thank you.
You are welcome.
One last question, if I may.
Yes, you may.
Thank you. This is a general question regarding the influence that the collective agreement has on an individual choice of something.
Yes.
How much does that have more weight than his individual choice on something?
It depends on the person. It depends on the theme you're exploring. It varies from person to person in terms of its percentage of influence, as you say. It depends. So there are some things that are clearly breaking away from the idea of the collective when you see things, for example, like a person such as Einstein, who comes up with a completely different paradigm for what the collective originally agreed to believe in. And thus, eventually, the collective adapts to that new paradigm expressed by very few people on the planet. So that's an opportunity for the collective to experience, shall we say, a loophole in the collective agreement that it is, in certain timings, in certain ways, and with certain synchronicities, willing to have the entire paradigm agreement change. But the idea is that there are a few very general things that most people on your planet will not even care to change in order to accomplish what they need to accomplish. Such as you are playing a game of physical reality, and there's such a thing as the planet Earth, and such a thing as gravity, and so on and so forth. But again, it really depends on the person. Now, the things that excite you the most, that are truly aligned with your passion and truly representative of who you are, can always be accomplished in some way, shape, or form within the collective agreement, because that's allowed. But the idea is, you may still be willing to believe that you must go through a process in order to figure all that out and express yourself, because the process itself may be what is necessary for you to have a fuller appreciation of what it is you are ultimately able to accomplish in expressing your true passion in life. And that's part of the collective agreement too.
Okay.
Does that answer your question sufficiently?
Yes, I got that.
All right, so have fun.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Aveo.
Okay.
Hello, Bashar. This is Nathan Viasana. I was wondering if it would be any way possible if I could have contact with one of the beings, if possible. I'm open to the idea, and I think it would be a great opportunity if I can have close contact or come in contact. I guess that's it. Yeah, that's it. Is good to meet you, Bashar, and she's the best.
Well, obviously, we are having contact right now in this particular format, but we understand what is meant. But again, there's a timing to these things that's appropriate not only for the individual, but for the all, for the collective. So again, we would simply suggest that you do your best to follow the formula, and remember that acting on your passion means acting to the best you are able to act, which means if you can't do a certain thing that you're excited about, then it's telling you that it's not necessarily the appropriate timing for that expression, but you can act on other things you are able to act on. So do so, and you will accelerate the process of being able to be ready in vibrational states that are appropriate for open contact to happen face to face with other kinds of beings. As we say, we will be giving you other permission slips, other exercises having to do with the idea of increasing the probability of contact when we go through the transmissions of the window, the door, and the gate. So that may be of assistance to you as well in the upcoming months of your 2023 year.
Hello. Hi. First, I want to say thank you for the synchronicity of talking with you.
It is our passion and our pleasure.
Thank you. So, I'm curious to know about a couple experiences I've had.
All right.
I made some homemade tincture and
Of what?
THC,
All right.
and I laid down to take a nap, and I thought that I fell asleep because I felt my entire body vibrating, and it was very intense but very pleasurable. I thought I was asleep. My bed felt like it was levitating on an angle with the head raised higher. And it felt like I was in warm water. It felt like somebody was behind me and wrapping their hand around my waist. And eventually I got up because I thought that I peed my bed. But it turns out that, my bed was dry, and when I looked at my watch to see how long I was asleep, it didn't detect any sleep. And then I had another similar experience where it felt like something externally again was pushing up from my root chakra, and it again was very pleasurable. So I'm wondering what these experiences could have been.
They're preparation states for altered states, fuller altered states that you may achieve later on. It's preparing you and allowing you to get used to certain higher frequencies so that you can more smoothly transition into higher altered states later on.
Okay.
Do you understand?
So was that my own body, or was that another entity?
There are other entities involved peripherally to some degree, but what you are experiencing is your own energy going into altered states, higher frequencies.
Okay. And also, I had come across a YouTube video from Rob Gauthier, the ET Whisperer, how to channel class, and I was doing one of his exercises, and I saw an entity, a being. He appeared to be male, with bluish gray skin and bluish gray hair. He seemed to have a flat affect, no really emotional. He didn't look like emotional at all. He appeared to be like a warrior type, not in a negative way, but just like a warrior type. I'm wondering, did I happen to see somebody that was not reaching out to me, just because I didn't have any specific, person in mind that I was trying to connect with? I just was seeing.
You are experiencing one face, one aspect in symbolic form of your own higher mind.
So is that another entity from like another dimension?
Your higher mind, your spirit self on the higher level. One aspect of it. Yes, but not you, the physical person only. A bigger representation. Remember that you are in spirit right now. You never leave spirit. That's your natural state. So what you are seeing is a portion, a representation, just one representation of a multifaceted level of your own being in the spirit world.
Were they trying to communicate with me, or
they did communicate with you? Because the things that you picked up are aspects you contain.
Ah, I see. Are they located anywhere? Where are they located?
On a different plane, here and now, different frequency. In again, the same way that two television programs are located in the same space, but you only see one at a time based on what you're tuned to. All spirit is here. It's just a different frequency, different channel, if you wish.
And does this entity have a name?
It's up to you to determine what you wish to call your own higher mind. Remember, this is you. You keep referring to it as this entity. It's not separate from you. You are an aspect of it. You are a projection of it. It is reflecting qualities to you that you contain, even as a physical being.
Okay. And
use them in life. Go boldly forward.
Okay. And I feel like somebody or something has been trying to connect with me.
Did we not just talk about it?
Yes, you did.
All right. Don't separate what is not separated in terms of a question. It is all the same thing that we're talking about here.
Okay.
Your higher self is showing you and giving you opportunities to make a stronger, aware connection with it so that you can move forward in life more fully as your true self, acting on your passions.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Aveo.
Hi, Bashar. This is Teresa. Can you talk about scapegoating? Why does scapegoating happen within a family? And what should a person do if they've been scapegoated their whole lives not to be socially marginalized? I grew up the scapegoat within my family, and I still have great difficulty feeling connected to other people, even in my old age. Thank you for all that you've done for me.
Where it is a badge of strength that you chose to be strong enough to, in a sense, take on the fears and lack of responsibility that other people have when they are not willing to look at their own issues and simply choose someone to foist them all and project them all upon. So it's a badge of strength that you were willing to do this for them, but you must reflect, if you are to be true to yourself, the idea that rather than continuing as a scapegoat, it's possible for you, though they don't have to accept it, that you can return information to them that allows them the opportunity to face their own fears and not foist them off on you, to allow them to take responsibility for their own negative and fear-based belief systems that they are simply unwilling to face, which is why people create scapegoats, because they fear the responsibility, because they define it as blame, and they are coming from a place of less than worthiness, and so on and so forth. But you have decided to be strong enough to play the part that allows them to use you, in a sense, as an excuse to not face themselves. But you don't have to continue to do so if you can respond appropriately, that puts them in touch with the idea that they need to look at themselves and their own issues if they really wish to expand in life. But that means you can go on without feeling like a scapegoat or experiencing the effects of being one, if you take the responsibility to reflect to them what it is they are actually reflecting to you about their own fears.
Hello?
All right, good day, good day.
Hi, very nice to talk to you.
And you as well. What would you like to discuss this day?
I wanted to ask you if you have transgender people on your planet.
It has happened from time to time, though it is not necessarily a theme we completely need to explore. Although as we evolve, in a sense, we become less differentiated in male and female and closer to spirit, which contains no gender and all genders at all. So in that sense, you may say that many of us are now what you might refer to as androgynous, neither male nor female exactly, but not exactly the same expression of transgender that you are exploring on Earth.
Okay, that's amazing. That's great news for me.
Oh,
I wanted to ask you if okay, so my name is Linnea,
yes.
and it's a plant name,
Yes.
and it is considered a pretty feminine name. I am in the process of transitioning, but I really like my name.
Yes.
Because it's a plant name and I work with plants, and I know Willa Hillacrising talks about having plant names in the future, and that really resonates with me.
Yes.
So I was wondering if there is a name that comes through you to me that would make sense for me after I transition medically.
Into?
A male.
Well, if you wish to retain traditional suffixes on your planet, you could call yourself Linneo.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't think about that. That's amazing. Okay, whoa, that's really interesting. Thank you.
You're
okay,
welcome.
I have another question.
Yes.
My ancestors are from Lebanon.
Yes.
Can I ask a question about Lebanon?
You may ask. We do not know yet whether we will be allowed to answer, but go ahead.
Okay, great. So I have ancestry from that area. That's kind of the only area that I have ancestry from. And when I look at Lebanon, it seems like a place that experiences a lot of challenges and a lot of identity crisis issues.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, it's kind of hard for me to find information on Lebanon. And I'm wondering if you have any idea of the original people of Lebanon, and if they ever lived harmoniously with the land, and if they ever lived harmoniously with each other.
In some ways, yes, but it is an area, as you say, of great challenge and great cycles of exploration. We would suggest, even though it may not be only connected to the idea of Lebanon, if you have not done so already, explore the idea of Baalbek.
Okay.
and see what comes up for you.
Explore, and you mean just research and
Research.
not go there?
Yes, if you wish. You may ultimately go there, but for now, research is fine. Baalbek.
Okay. Okay, great. Can you talk a little bit about, is there any energy point in Lebanon that makes it so chaotic, or is it just what people there have agreed to experience?
To some degree, it's what they have agreed to experience, but it is a deeper story than that and a longer story than we have time to express today.
Well, will we get to know sometime in my lifetime what the story there is? It just seems too
Potentially,
complicated.
potentially, yes.
You have talked about how on first contact we would get a complete history of our planet.
That will
Would
be
that be a
contained
time?
within it, yes.
Amazing. Do I have time for one more question?
Well, that was a question. I guess you did.
Okay. I have a question you've probably answered a whole bunch of times already, but
Always the first time, every time.
okay, interesting. What are some actual practices on how to stop caring about what people think? Because just identifying it to me doesn't stop those reoccurring patterns and those reoccurring thoughts. It's something I've been working on my whole life. So
All
I'm
right.
wondering, yeah.
Well, this goes down once again to the motivational mechanism we have talked about. The idea that you believe these things to be truer than the alternative, yourself. So the question is, since you only believe things you believe serve you, the alternative must be scarier or believed to be worse than what you're already willing to believe about yourself to be true. So when people say things and you care about what they're saying in the negative sense, there is a portion of you in your belief system that agrees with them or is afraid that it might be true. You need to get in touch with how it serves you to hold on to that assessment of yourself, why you would align yourself with something that you don't prefer to be true about yourself, and examine why you're holding on to it. Usually it has to do with issues of lack of self-worth, or the idea that the alternative belief, the one that you know would be more positive, is somehow something you believe would actually cause something worse to happen than simply staying where you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'll have to process that. But the first part really, really struck a chord with me.
All right. The motivational mechanism is simply that within your consciousness where you will always move toward what you believe serves you and always move away from what you believe does not. So if you notice that you're holding on to things that don't serve you, like maybe caring too much about what people think of you, not saying you can't take advice from time to time, that's fine, but you get to determine what is true for you. But holding on to things you know are not necessarily preferable and judging yourself in that sense, you have to find out why you would think that that is to your benefit.
Okay.
Because the idea, again, is that if you believe it is to your benefit to hold on to that concept, that usually means, again, it's an issue of self-worth, or it's an issue that the alternative somehow, because of your belief system, would appear worse, that something bad will happen if you go the other way that you prefer to go.
Right.
So examine those two probabilities and you will hit upon what the belief is. And as soon as you really look around and compare yourself to others in the world who may be living in the way you prefer to, you will realize that you actually do have a choice and that to hold on to something you don't prefer makes no sense. And as soon as it truly makes no sense, it'll be gone because you don't hold on to things that don't make sense. So you have a belief that's making the idea make sense. You have to find that belief and let it go.
That's great. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome.
One more question about, there's a lot of predictions that 2023 will be a year of famine, which doesn't sound right to me.
For some, it's true.
For some, it's true?
Yes, but not for all.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is the splitting prism when you are starting to diversify into different threads, different realities, different versions of Earth. So for some, but again, remember, there's no such thing as a prediction of the future. The energy that is created in the prediction is the sensing of what's in the present that has a high degree of probability, unless hearing the prediction makes you change it.
how likely is it to switch to change that probability for myself?
As likely as you believe it to be. So again, examine your beliefs. Why wouldn't it be likely? Why wouldn't it be probable for you to go in a different direction?
Right.
Remember,
So it comes down to that
fear attracts.
Yeah.
So ask yourself, why are you concerned about this? What are your belief systems telling you that you would bring this up as a question?
Yeah.
How much stock are you putting in that idea? And why? And you will have your answer.
I don't fear it for myself. I fear it for other people.
Yes, but they have their own path too.
Yeah. Okay.
So while you can do whatever you can to help,
yeah,
and perhaps stave off the idea of starvation or famine for others,
yeah,
all you can do is do what you can. People have their own paths. You're not living their lives. They may have chosen this for their own reasons.
That's true.
And what you have to share with them and how you can help may affect them somewhere down the line if it doesn't do so right away. But that's all you can do. What they choose to do with what you choose to help them with is none of your business.
Okay. That's great. Thank you.
Be helpful, but be respectful of their own path as well if you seem like you're not able to really do something for them. They're making their own choices too.
Thank you. You've answered all of my questions. I appreciate that.
It is our deep appreciation to you for the interaction. Aveo.
Aveo.
Hello, Bashar. This is Meerte from the Netherlands, and I have some experiences I would like to ask you about. So, somewhere in my 20s, I was sitting on the couch. I was watching our cat jumping through the living room, and all of a sudden, I felt like I caught a glimpse of his perspective. So I was closer to the floor, I was facing in a different direction. But especially the air around me, like usually I just ignore space and look at the objects in it. But now it was like the air was very active and like sparkly and very alive. Like a few years later, I was babysitting a little kid, and I was sitting at the table, and she was standing to my right. And all of a sudden I could see the table on eye level, and I saw my own figure to the left. And especially my senses were very active, like less focus on my thoughts and more on my senses. And then a few years later, again, I was helping a friend who was making a YouTube video. So I was filming her and holding the camera and listening to her story. And then all of a sudden I could see myself holding the camera in front of me. So it felt like switching places, but more than switching places, it was like their perspective was added to mine for a while. Just for a few seconds, because I would be very surprised. And I think the surprise in itself just kind of like moved me back to my own perspective. But I was wondering, can you tell me a little bit about what happens in a situation like that? How would you describe something like that? And also, how could we, what could we do to actively develop a skill like that to maybe purposefully switch places or add perspectives for a moment? Thank you so much.
Well, there are many ways that you might learn to do that more intentionally, but for right now, they are simply signposts for you to get used to the idea that you are loosely connected to physical reality and thus slipping back into the idea of your spirit perspective, which sees all things as connected, which sees all perspectives from every point of view. So you're kind of practicing going back and forth between the denser physical material world and the less dense spiritual perspective of knowing that you are everything, you are connected to everything, and can perceive everything from everyone else's perspective. So you're practicing back and forth doing that so that you maintain more conscious awareness of your connection to physical reality and know that you are creating it as a projection, as a dream projection of your consciousness. So it's just a process you're going through that you'll get better at. Just keep going, follow the formula. It will expand and it will accelerate.
Hey.
Good day.
Bashar, hello.
Good day, good day.
Oh my goodness. So many years.
All right, if you say so.
We have not, am I imagining our connection for many years and answers and revelations you've given me through the channels?
No, you're not imagining, but it may be coming from a lot of different sources, not necessarily just us. It could be coming from your own higher mind or spirit guides and all sorts of
Oh,
places.
wow. Oh my goodness. I'm really grateful to you for all the insight you've given me, though, because I use it in my life so
It is our
well.
passion and our pleasure to do so, and we thank you for being willing to apply it, because you don't have to.
Oh wow, that takes the pressure off. That really helps.
All right. Anything else you would like to discuss?
Yes, I had a question. This was the original question I was supposed to ask you to start. And it's,
Yes.
do I have my own UFO on Earth? And I think I know what you're going to say. Somewhere in a past lifetime, I've left a UFO. I can like find it again by being in a certain resonance, more so than just staying in the vibration. But what more is there than staying in the vibration?
Well, first of all, it's not your past life. You're making a connection to someone who exists simultaneously with you, who does have that experience. And therefore, in a sense, it's findable if you are in the correct vibrational state, if that is important for the theme you need to experience in this life.
With open contact coming, would you say it's probably appropriate?
It is a probability, but I'm not going to give you any percentages on that because it's too early and too many things are in flux.
Oh, wow. What are the major things in flux that would need to change? Does it have to do with deeper set negative beliefs?
It has to do with a lot of things going on your planet in the collective consciousness and what they are ready for.
Although my individual world, I can create and bolster whatever reality I choose.
Except for the things you have agreed to abide by, that doesn't leave anyone else behind.
Leaving people behind. Although you can never really do that, I guess, if we're eternal souls. And
yes, but in the immediate physical sense, you have a governor on yourself to make sure that you stay in step with certain aspects of the collective agreement so that there will be benefit for all concerned.
Could you go into that further?
In other words, the timing is important as to when that might occur. That would be of the greatest benefit for the greatest number of individuals who also seek some similar vibrational experience. So you can help not just yourself, but many people by accepting the appropriate timing for such discoveries as you have described it.
Okay, so we don't have to know ahead of time because it could mess with it. And yeah, that's another thing. I have heard some of your predictions, like the Sphinx and the UFO under it being excavated, and then went into a state of expectation. And then I think I've sabotaged it from happening as soon as you initially
It's not a sabotage. It's an opportunity for you to explore any limiting beliefs within you and to relax into appropriate timing.
Wow.
Even the idea or the definition that you would consider that sabotage is something that's important to work on.
Right, because of baggage from my upbringing, I would say.
Yes. So it's an opportunity, and therefore the UFO acts as an opportunity, as an incentive for you to work on clearing out the vibrational beliefs that aren't compatible with the idea of the probability of encountering the UFO.
Wow, so as I work out the issue, or I bring it to the surface or transform it by embracing it and giving gratitude, then the UFO becomes more likely.
Yes, but you have to be careful not to attach more expectation and insistence to that, because you don't really know what more likely means in terms of the timing.
Wow. So yeah, I can't claim to know what would actually happen either. That makes sense.
And you wouldn't want to, because again, you'll spoil the surprises.
Right, like everything else that seems to manifest in life. It seems like it's not happening, nothing's happening, and then all of a sudden it's like,
yes,
when it's not happening, especially, it starts happening.
Yes, exactly so. So
what state to be in the state? What's the best state to always believe that it's not happening or know that it's not happening, that like constantly
Live in the moment, deal with what is happening, follow the formula. That's all you need to do. It's designed to do that. It's designed to keep you in the present and deal with what is happening in the most positive way.
If I'm not in a state of it manifesting, is that
You are always manifesting something, or you wouldn't be having a physical reality experience.
Well, that's true.
So it's not like you don't know how to manifest. You just need to relax your insistence or expectation on what it is you think you need to manifest and when. And you have to start trusting the way your life unfolds. Relax into the present. Whatever it is that is happening is the most important thing in the world that could be happening at that moment. And if you relate to it from a positive place, you will extract the benefit from it that will carry you forward in appropriate timing. If you resist it, this shouldn't be happening, I should be farther along, something else should be happening, then you stay stuck exactly where you are until you get the message that the present experience is meant to bring you.
Wow. It's all now, so what else is there?
Exactly. So stay in the present and things will accelerate, because everything you need can only happen to you in the now. And if you're not home, if you're not here, and you're not now, then you cannot experience the manifestations that are important for you to experience in the now. You have to be home to receive the packages.
And that's breathing, I believe. Breathing properly, which I oftentimes just hold my breath for very long periods.
All right. Well, again, with the exception of certain exercises that are designed to allow you to hold your breath for a variety of reasons, yes, just breathe and keep moving and keep relating to whatever's happening in the most positive way you can. Even if something manifests that you don't objectively prefer, you just realize it's not vibrationally compatible with what you prefer, that doesn't mean it's not there for a reason. And if nothing else, you can more clearly understand what you prefer by having manifested something that you don't prefer. And therefore you've used what you don't prefer in a positive way. And then it can move on because you've used it. You've learned the lesson.
Essentially, it's saying I am all that I perceive, right? And being without your is it letting the ego tell us that we're better than something, or something is better than something?
Without the negative, without the negative ego. Because the true ego doesn't tell you anything. It just allows you to experience whatever it is you're experiencing as clearly as possible. That's the positive ego. It's just doing its job of allowing you to have a physical reality experience. It's the negative ego that thinks it needs to control that experience. You're already in control. The negative ego doesn't believe that you are, and therefore tries to take over and control everything. But that's exactly the opposite of control. That's desperation and feeling like you're disconnected.
Sorry?
That's desperation, feeling like you're disconnected.
Right. Which is part of my baggage.
All right. So, you are in control. Just go with the flow. Go with your own current. Don't swim upstream. You will land exactly where you need to because your current knows exactly where you need to go. It's designed for you. So, don't overthink. Just relax into the flow. The flow knows exactly what needs to happen. Let your life unfold in an automatic and perfectly timed way. Don't try so hard.
Am I trying too hard right now?
To some degree, but you're relaxing a bit as we go.
A bit, yeah. Correct. Wow.
So, anything else, or do you have what you need?
Oh, I could go on. I could spend a lot of time talking to you, or at least being...
Well, all right, but remember, the more you absorb and understand what we're saying, the more you can answer your own questions.
Oh my.
Because many times people ask the same question over and over in different clothing. And the answer is the same to all of it. Follow the formula, be in the now, act on your passion, be yourself.
Wow.
It's designed, it's a distillation of how reality works, designed to allow things to be easy by giving you an instruction manual for how it works. Just follow the instructions, as you would with any device that you would like to utilize that comes with instructions. A, B, C, D, E. Follow the instructions, it'll work. Don't follow the instructions, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, maybe it'll work to your disadvantage. Just follow the instructions. Everything is working already. Just follow the instructions. The instructions tell you how it's working, why it works. That's all you have to do. That's why we give you the formula. Act on your passion to the best you can, with no insistence, no expectation as to the outcome, no assumption of that. Stay in a positive state, no matter what happens. Examine your belief systems. Let go of the ones that don't serve you. That's it. Very simple. No need to overcomplicate it. Just follow the instructions as precisely as possible.
Wonderful.
Does that help you?
Helps me very much. Very much.
Take a breath. All right. So, moving on, is there something else?
Oh, okay. Well, of many questions that I've wanted to ask you, I keep coming back to this one. I guess it's the most exciting. As Jesus taught you how to neutralize the effect of negative actions through forgiveness to your ancient civilization,
Forgiving others is forgiving yourself for having attracted the experience that you don't prefer. In other words, it's freedom. Forgiveness is freedom. Otherwise, if you don't forgive, you're anchoring yourself to the negative experience and the negative energy, and why would you want to do that? Yeshua is for you and earth. We have Shekinah, which taught us the same thing.
Shekinah.
Yes. The aspect of all that is the teacher, that is the shifter and the changer. But your expression of that is either Yeshua or Buddha or Krishna or many faces of all that is.
Is that throughout the billions of years that the same souls keep reincarnating as...
Reincarnation is an illusion.
Oh.
Remember, everything exists now, which means everyone exists now. So you're never someone else, but you make energetic connections to them, and from your linear perspective, interpret them as memories. So experiential reincarnation is real. You can have the experience as if you have reincarnated in a linear fashion, but what you're really doing is connecting to other beings that exist at the same time you do and drawing down experience from them, which you interpret as memories, to guide you in this life, as they may be doing the same with you.
So
remember, everything is now. Everything is now. Everything is now. Everything is now. Does that help you?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, it very much does.
We will say that is sufficient unto the day.
Okay. I go on for hours. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. Aveo.
Aveo. Thank you.
In our language, that means in service.
And my third and final question was if you could please give or share a geometric calling card to deepen my relationship with Kernanos, or the winter spirit, have you referred to him?
Kernanos, the winter spirit, would be as the idea of focusing on the antlers themselves, just the antlers, but with an understanding of what it represents, with a connection to nature, a very deep, pervading connection to the idea of the world of those nature spirits, the energy of the plasticity that allows them to come and go in physical form. So focus on the antlers as an anchor point, but retain the idea that they're connected to something that is constantly shifting, constantly coming in and out of physical reality, a heartbeat that comes and goes and connects and bridges what you consider physical reality to be and the non-physical aspect, the non-physical skin, so to speak, or dimension of the earth itself. I know that sounds a little cryptic and poetic, but nevertheless, it's the best way to describe the vibrational frequency and symbol that represents Kerninos.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Thank you for taking my question.
Oh, it is our passion and our pleasure to do so.
I was wondering if you could explain a little bit more about the alternate realities of Earth. Are we individually creating these, or is it more of a collective?
Both. There are collectives in every alternate reality. If you identify and vibrate in alignment with them, then you join that collective as an individual.
Yeah. So my version, though, might be slightly different than what other people.
Yes, but similar enough that you can agree to experience what seems to be the same reality, even though it's not.
Okay.
That agreement takes place on a different level. But yes, it can be similar enough that you say, oh yes, we're in the same reality, we're sharing the same reality. You're not, but it can seem so.
Okay. And then, as I think I heard you say in some previous discussions, that it was like we could see other people's realities, but we're still moving apart from.
Yes, it's like there are glass walls between the splitting realities at this point, so you can still see the other realities so that they can see yours, so that you can decide whether what they're doing is something you would prefer to choose or what you're doing is something they would prefer to choose. So for a while, you will allow each other to see all the different choices, but eventually those glass walls will become more and more opaque, and eventually you will only experience that which is compatible with the realities that you have shifted to.
Okay. All right. I think I understand.
Oh, all right. Thank you. Anything else?
No, that was it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Aveo.
Hello, Tadeo.
Nania.
We have so many wonderful questions from our viewers.
All right.
The first question is, how does one hone their vibration or frequency to their exact preferred reality series?
By following the formula. That's what it's designed to do. That's why we give it to you.
And this person is saying they've been having a challenging year energetically, and part of the year they felt like they were on a downward spiral, and they wanted to know how they can work with their belief system and shift into a positive reality, like with the rubber band analogy. And can surrendering be complementary to the formula to assist him in their preferred reality shift?
Yes, if you understand that surrendering is actually allowing the control you already have built into you to function properly, instead of trying to take control through the personality ego. Surrendering is surrendering to the control that's already built into you. So yes, of course, that kind of surrender can be completely compatible with the idea of following the formula, because it goes hand in hand with not assuming or insisting on a particular outcome, but allowing what needs to happen to manifest around you and then staying in that positive state to extract the benefit from it.
And how can we intentionally manifest what we want when we still have to interact with what's left of previous realities before the new ones become visible?
Well, again, it's not always about what you want, which can be a negative ego thing. Not always, but it can be. It's about knowing that you will attract what you need if you allow yourself to remain in the present, because the present is where everything happens. Connecting yourself continually to the idea of the so-called past is what may prevent you from living in the present so you can receive whatever it is that needs to manifest for you in the present. So finding out in your belief system why you would still anchor yourself to past events when you know that if you simply redefine yourself in the present, you've already changed your past as well, would be a good exploration and investigation for people to do, to allow themselves to understand why they may believe they have to hold on to things from the so-called past.
This person is saying that they've been following your teachings since they discovered you about 5 or 6 years ago, and yet they still find circumstances tend to dictate their state of being. Can you offer any suggestions on how to not take our cue from our circumstances?
All right, again, look at the language. Circumstances do not tend to alter your state of being. You choose to be altered by circumstances. You would have to ask yourself why. What are you getting out of choosing to go based on the idea of outside circumstances as opposed to choosing what it is you say you prefer? So again, this requires honest self-investigation and an understanding of the beliefs that are attached to your motivational mechanism that would make it seem logical for you to choose something you say you don't prefer. Because again, you don't choose what you don't believe serves you on some level. So you must have a belief that choosing these things based on outside circumstances somehow serves you, somehow puts you in a place that you say is safer than the alternative. So it requires honest self-investigation to understand why you are choosing to go based on the idea of outside circumstances instead of the state of being you prefer to remain in.
So is that partly having to do with the idea that we actually are manifesting our experience, and the idea that it's not just happening to us, like fully accepting that this is a projection of consciousness, as opposed to I'm in this reality and these things are happening to me?
Correct. It's about taking full responsibility for what's happening. This is not a blame. It's control. It's knowing you are in control of what's happening. Even though you may not understand it, you may be testing yourself to see if you're still reacting the same old way to the circumstances, or whether you are going to respond to it differently, which is the true measure of change. It's not about whether the outside circumstances change that prove you have changed. It's about whether you respond differently to them that is the proof of change. And then the outside can possibly reflect the change that is truly happening within you, because you're not basing your state of being on outside circumstances.
So it really does come down to believing that this is a projection of consciousness that's coming through you, and understanding how to relate to the projection that you're experiencing.
More than believing, it's knowing that it is.
And that's what really makes your frequency go up, is when you shift from believing to knowing.
Yes.
And so what actually determines our state of being?
The combination of belief systems that you hold to be true at any given moment in your personality structure.
Is it kind of like an equation where all of the beliefs are added together and the summary is
your frequency? Yes. Simply put, but yes.
So every time you change a belief that's negative into either something neutral or positive, that's changes your equation and gives you the opportunity to be higher frequency.
Correct.
Okay. And what would a change in a belief system have to come from the motivational mechanism itself, or do these ideas operate on different levels?
The motivational mechanism is always involved. Now, as we have said, the unconscious mind is a repository of potential beliefs that represent the theme that you chose to explore. The subconscious mind is the gateway or valve that allows certain kinds of beliefs that fit your theme to come through to the conscious mind when you are ready for them. But the conscious mind always functions off the motivational mechanism because, again, it's a world of physical reality, it's a world of action, and the beliefs have to motivate you to take an action or create a state of being that is commensurate with the belief so you have something to work with, whether it's positive or negative.
And does the idea of free will have to do with our capacity to change what beliefs we put into the motivational mechanism?
You always have the same capacity, but again, it depends on whether or not you believe that you do. You always have the free will to change your belief system. But if you have a belief that says you don't, you're using your free will to deny yourself the accessibility to your free will in a positive state. You're simply using your free will in a negative state.
And what is more powerful, belief systems or feelings and emotions when it comes to manifestation?
They work hand in hand. First, you have the belief. Then the belief uses emotions and thoughts and behaviors to reinforce itself and make itself seem real. Because again, remember, physical reality is a projection of consciousness. Classically said, it's an illusion. So the belief can't just be on its own. It has to generate the vibrational energy frequencies that you translate as feelings to make it feel that it's true, and the thought patterns to make you think that it's true, and the behavior modalities to allow you to behave as if it's true so that you get the reflection which then can reinforce it, and it completes the cycle. But it always starts with the belief. Without the emotional, shall we say, reinforcement, it wouldn't feel real. So beliefs use emotions, thoughts, and behaviors to make themselves seem solid, seem factual, seem real, so that you can actually participate in what you call physical reality. Otherwise, you would just sit there.
And how do we tell the difference between fear-based beliefs and logical planning ahead?
Well, if you plan something generally, but you are willing to allow for that to change, and you're not afraid for it to change, then you understand you're not operating out of fear-based beliefs. So you can plan, but always allow in the plan for things to change up a little bit, for there to be spontaneity and surprises, and go with the flow. Course correct as you go. You can have a general plan as an outline, but don't assume that it has to meet every single one of the markers that you originally designed in the plan. Allow there to be some flexibility. If you're not afraid to do that, then you're not operating out of a fear-based belief.
And along those lines, if there's a lot of activity where people are scamming other people around money, let's say, soliciting money from them in one way or another, does that mean that when you're approached by anyone that is asking you for money, that you have an immediate belief that this could potentially be a scammer, or do you approach it some other way that would be of a higher frequency?
Well, again, you can recognize from a high frequency that someone may be perpetrating a scam. It doesn't mean you have to emotionally react to it, but you can recognize it for what it is if you're sensitive enough to do so. Or you can certainly take the time to explore whether it is or not if you feel you have sufficient powers of discernment to be able to tell from their responses to your questions what it is they are being honest or dishonest about. So it might be an opportunity to allow yourself to hone your discernment capabilities, but you don't have to react to it emotionally to simply have the neutral observation that it could potentially be one way or the other. You can recognize that that's a potential feature on Earth, that many people may choose to scam others, but you can sit in a neutral space and determine whether or not that is true on a case-by-case basis, if you wish.
Okay, thank you. In the past year after contracting COVID, this individual suffered mentally with anxiety and panic attacks. And they wanted to know how they could deal with that anxiety and still be available for open contact, and whether or not the anxiety in that sense blocks them from having open contact.
The anxiety would perhaps block or slow down the potential for open contact, but they simply need to understand by examining their belief systems what they're anxious about. The question is being asked in too vague a way for us to pinpoint what the specific reason is that they choose to experience anxiety. There's got to be a belief or a fear behind what they are afraid of so that they can understand where the anxiety is coming from. That would be the first step. Why are they anxious? What are they anxious about? Then perhaps they can move on from there to determine how they can let go of it by understanding that there's no reason to be anxious about whatever it is they're anxious about. And therefore, they can raise their vibration and make themselves potentially more capable of having contact.
So is there a relationship between contracting some kind of virus and then changes that occur within the person that then would be, say, anxiety? How does a virus change the way you experience reality? Maybe that's better.
Well, it doesn't. You change the way you experience reality based on your belief system relationship to the idea of the virus. The virus is simply an opportunity to examine how you will respond to its existence.
And that's why, like, some people will have dreams about it if they've got it, and they'll have a positive interaction with the virus, whereas other people experience it as killing them.
Yes. Everything has a level of consciousness that can be communicated with. If you are open to that, you will receive whatever information is necessary for you to utilize and apply to the situations of your belief system so that you can understand how to create the relationship you really prefer with any form of life.
Can you share with us your definition and understanding of the word grace and state of grace?
Yes. To put it in the simplest possible terms, it's a state of innocence, a state of purity, a state of allowance and acceptance, like a child, in a sense, that hasn't yet unlearned how to be its natural self. State of grace is the innocence of the natural self, the acceptance of unconditional love, and the acceptance of self within all that is as an aspect of all that is. So, but again, simply, it could be called a state of innocence.
And you see that innocence, of course, in babies and young children.
Yes.
And then it seems that individuals change at different stages of life and become more and more, quote unquote, realistic or...
Well, again, it's about the idea of finally getting to the point where you are going to start experiencing the theme you chose to explore. When you say realistic, it simply means, all right, you have accepted that you have this theme to explore, and the experience of physical reality will help you do that, and you accept that and you move forward.
So why does, in many species, you see this sort of loss of sweetness, I guess? The survival mechanism becomes much more dominant. Is that part of what you're explaining to us?
On that level, yes. You start to accept that you have a role in physical reality based on the collective consciousness and what it needs to experience, and you start playing that role.
So was Earth always like a predatory planet? And can you help us understand about our relationship to having an environment that is essentially predatory?
It was not always such, but the idea again is that the Earth is what you might call a tough school. It is a school of cycles. It is a school of positive and negative and polarities and experience of such. So it has fluctuated back and forth many times in different ways. But the idea, as we have said, is that the primary environment of your planet as you understand it in nature is predatory, mostly because you are still exploring the idea of predation. Remember that as you change yourself in the present, you change your past. So the past you think was always there wasn't always there.
And it seems like the dinosaurs were extremely predatory.
That's the past you believe in right now.
Can you explain that further? I mean, like, it is pretty amazing that we have these dinosaurs in our history of our
Yes.
planet. That is so extraordinary.
In the history that you're creating from your present.
So this change in our history, what level of vibration would our civilization need to be at to have a completely different version of Earth that didn't have dinosaurs?
Or had different kinds of animals that weren't necessarily exhibiting or reflecting the idea of predation in the way that you experience today, would be above 200,000 cycles per second in your overall frequency.
And what percentage of our planet population is at that frequency level presently, would you say?
Less than 2%.
And on balance, then the population is functioning at what?
You want an average for the entire collective of your planet?
Yes.
Somewhere around 60 to 70,000 cycles per second.
Okay. And so will contact be limited to people who are functioning over 200,000 cycles per second, or just in the initial stages, those individuals would perhaps have contact first?
It might be that they will experience certain kinds of contact before others, but that can help others raise their vibration, knowing that that's going on as well. It doesn't have to be exactly 200,000 for there to be some form of open contact. And again, remember, it depends on what you're having contact with. But the idea is it can start somewhere around 150 to 160,000 cycles per second, minimally, slowly, and it can build. What we are talking about is that above 200,000 cycles per second, there would be something considered to be normal, constant, open contact.
And so for an individual to have contact with you, what kind of frequency level would they need to have in order to have a good experience?
At this particular point, again, definitely above 200,000 cycles per second, probably closer to 215,000 cycles. At this point.
And would one of the key things of individuals functioning in that level is that they are genuinely able to stay in a positive state no matter what they encounter?
Yes, because choosing anything else simply doesn't make sense to a being operating on that level.
And their consciousness would be much more clear in terms of all of their, or most of their beliefs, or important beliefs.
Let me put it to you in an extremely overly simplistic kind of way. Would you be willing right now to punch yourself in the face as hard as you can? Yes or no?
No.
Well, it would be that kind of an obvious choice to those operating above 200,000 cycles per second that they simply wouldn't choose something that doesn't make sense for them, that they don't prefer. It's simply not on the list of choices. Yes, they know it's always a possibility, but the probability is so low that they simply would not choose it in a practical day-to-day sense. Just like you would not choose to punch yourself in the face.
So part of our challenge is to let go of the ideas of self-recrimination and guilt, I suppose.
Yes.
The ideas of what it truly means to be spiritual.
To be a spirit. To be a spirit, not spiritual, to be a spirit in physical terms.
And what kinds of emotions would that eliminate?
You would no longer choose to feel the idea of fear or sadness in that sense, or anger or hate. Those kinds of things simply wouldn't make sense to a being operating on that level. Again, in much the same way that you have chosen not to punch yourself in the face. It would be that visceral of a choice. It would not feel correct. It would feel damaging as physically punching yourself, to choose the idea of hate and sorrow and sadness and fear, so on and so forth.
And on this level, we are actually able to tolerate huge amounts of dissonance and seeing things on television that are violent or unpleasant, and not feel what we would feel if we were above 200,000 cycles per second, when we would immediately disconnect from that kind of input, I suppose.
You would either disconnect from the input or you would know how to use it to positive effect.
So that's the other piece. If you are going to see it, then you know how to use it to get a positive effect.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes.
So what about the idea that of false accusation? You know, how you were saying that if someone judges you, then, you know, if you didn't believe it was true on some level, you wouldn't react to it.
Yes, if you are doing it out of the idea of teaching lessons to other people about those things and how to be more discerning about what is and is not true, then you can remain relatively neutral, knowing that you have made a choice to attract such a thing into your life as a lesson for others to learn.
Wow. Wow. And if you ask for help, will you always receive guidance, or are there circumstances where help won't be given? And what would those circumstances be?
There are no such circumstances. Help is always given, but as we have said, you have to learn to pay attention to it and not insist that it must come in a certain form, because it may be being given to you, but you may be insisting that it should come some other way and therefore not recognizing the help that you're actually getting. So it's never that you are not given help. You are being given all the help and assistance you can possibly be given all the time. It's just that you haven't necessarily been taught to pay attention to that because of the belief systems within you.
I think there's some stories about those ideas of God sending help and the individual not recognizing that
Correct.
it's coming from God and thinking it has to look a certain way for it
Yes.
to be coming
Yes.
from God.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So help is never denied, ever.
And let's see, if our soul group agrees, can we incarnate as another ET race on another planet or a ship?
Sure, why not?
So is there such a thing as our soul group? What is our soul group?
Your soul family, or those that you deem are exploring a certain theme together. You can decide to do that as a group.
Does that mean that with each life that you experience yourself as, you have a different soul family?
Could be so. Just depends on the themes you're exploring. Now, you might generally keep a lot of them because souls are very flexible and willing to explore a lot of different things. So, euphemistically, it might be the same soul family who are willing to explore different themes together. Just like you decide as a group of friends or family to go on vacation one time to this place and the next to another place. You can still be the so-called same soul family, but you can be agreeing to have different experiences together.
So you've talked a lot about how it's important to take action in order to ground the energy of your passion.
And also to respond properly to the higher mind that sent you the passion to begin with.
So in the case of someone like Buddha, where there was the idea of travels and many journeys within, how do the journeys within fit into what you're describing because of, you know, the insights that people get and all of that kind of?
No matter how many journeys you may take within, remember that the Buddha also expressed the spiritual nature of chopping wood and carrying water, which are physical actions. In other words, don't necessarily segregate the idea of your actions in physical reality as being any less spiritual than the inner journeys you may take. It's always an opportunity to have an outward expression and an outward example of the inner journeys you may take so that others may see through your example in the actions that you take the beauty and information you have discovered from your journeys within. Because you can be inspiring to others with your behavior outwardly, your actions outwardly, based on the journeys you have discovered within.
So it's actually not this or that, it's this and that.
Exactly so.
Okay. And then as far as shifting to different realities,
which you are doing all the time.
Right. What does the mechanism of that feel and look like, that shifting?
Well, you're doing it all the time. So what does it feel and look like? It looks like time. It looks like change. It looks like motion. It looks like space. The idea is it's so natural to you, you don't even know you're doing it. So the idea is it really doesn't feel anything like what you would imagine unless you decide to make a larger continuity shift and let go of some of the so-called frames in between one and another that you would normally experience and be capable of consciously recognizing that you're shifting all the time. And then it might feel like elation, it might feel like disorientation, it might feel like a number of different things. But the idea is that you're doing it all the time. And in the natural sense of the agreement you have made to do it all the time with many others, what does it feel like? Doesn't feel like anything at all because it's natural. As I said, you only really feel the difference when you make a larger change, a larger shift that is a breaking of continuity.
So that's like teleporting almost.
Yes. It is exactly that. Because what you're doing all the time is teleporting from one reality to another. Billions of times per second. It's just that when you teleport or shift to something less expected, based on your understanding of what's expected, of your agreement to what's expected, then you notice the difference.
Can you also explain to us what it means to shift to fourth density and fifth density? Well, no, it's saying to shift to fourth density and fifth dimension. So I'm not sure what.
All right. Fifth dimension is non-physical. It means you're going back into spirit, so to speak, to put it linearly. Fourth density is a physical reality, just a higher vibratory one. And then if you decide to go into spirit, you've gone to not only fifth density, but the fifth dimension. Because again, that's the border between physical and non-physical reality. So fourth density may draw upon fifth dimensional energies, but you're not actually experiencing yourself in the fifth dimension until you're in spirit.
So when you're non-physical, you can still have a linear experience, right?
You can create a linear experience. Yes, you can create that. It's just that time is more malleable and flexible. So you can create whatever you want and experience it sort of linearly, or you can instantaneously experience something because time is not the same kind of factor in spirit that it is in physical reality. In fact, the idea of time is one of the very definitions of physical reality that you impose upon yourself. By shifting to billions of different realities from a particular perspective, you create this side effect, this illusion of time in a linear way. But in spirit, there's no need to do that, but you can do that.
So like for an individual such as yourself that is quasi-physical.
Yes.
Is there this huge demarcation that happens when you become fully non-physical as a spirit and experience other levels of yourself going forward? Because you can still have a linear progression of fifth and sixth and seventh.
Yes, but again, it's experienced very differently in the spirit world. But yes, the demarcation can be quite different, as most people who have near-death experiences describe. Suddenly, you are filled with unconditional love. You understand and know what your life is all about and what you chose. You remember completely and utterly who you are in that sense.
It's a lot to look forward to.
Well, yes, but not meaning to run away from physical reality.
Right. Because we get that theme a lot too, is that the desire to get out of physical reality because it's hard to accept things that are negative, predatory environment, all of these kinds of things.
Yes, but that's a misunderstanding. It's not about getting out of physical reality. It's about allowing you to know you are creating the experience in physical reality so that you can experience your control of what you're creating while physical, knowing that physical reality is an expression of spirit. It's not about getting out of it. It's about rendering physical reality more spiritually.
That's amazing. And the training ground for that is being able to stay in a positive state no matter what you experience, and
Yes.
not letting expectation of how it's supposed to be control the way that you respond to it.
Correct.
All of these kinds of things that you've expressed in the formula.
Yes. So this is a misunderstanding many people on your planet have about the idea of leaving physical reality, getting out of or overcoming physical reality. No. What you need to do is create physical reality in a more spiritual way so that there is less difference between the two.
It's very powerful.
Yes.
This person was saying they were reading a book about angels, and one day rare things happened. When I opened a new chapter and read the title of that chapter, suddenly I felt a gentle breeze. A story came into my head, and I later realized that the story that came into my head was in that chapter. What happened to that person?
You opened up to a higher level of your being, a higher level of your consciousness, saw the template you had laid down for about to read that story. You, in a sense, sensed what it was about ahead of time, so to speak, by tapping into the template you had created in non-physical reality to gain a glimpse of the so-called future, or again, a parallel present. And you had assistance and a greeting from higher level beings, not only your own higher mind, but spirit guides and other beings as well, that reinforce the idea with that so-called gentle breeze that you were in the correct state of being to be able to expand your consciousness and see what you had laid out for yourself.
One person wanted to know about Sasani beings aiding in human healing. Are there beings in your civilization that participate with us in that way?
A few of them do, yes, although again, this is something that's done very cautiously because we are not allowed to intervene in your experiences beyond a certain point. We will not go into this more deeply.
Okay. And is it possible to circumvent the laws of physics, such as gravity, with your conscious mind and your consciousness?
No, you are not circumventing the laws of physics if you allow yourself to achieve a levitation state that seems to ignore gravity. All you're doing is understanding more deeply what gravity is and taking advantage of that knowledge. It's not about overcoming the laws of physics. It's about understanding the true laws of physics more deeply than your scientists do at the moment, and then utilizing that accelerated knowledge.
And is there another trajectory for Earth where we don't have contact, but it's still a positive Earth?
Absolutely. There are many versions of Earth that have nothing to do with open contact with extraterrestrials, and they're very positively oriented. Anything you can imagine in that sense is most likely being expressed in some version of a parallel reality. So, no, not every Earth has to have open contact with extraterrestrials to be happy.
So there's Earth timelines where the Anunnaki were not involved or the hybridization agenda did not occur. And could you share anything with us about what those kinds of Earths would look like?
Well, as we have already said, the idea of the branches of hominids that were not genetically altered by the Anunnaki simply continue to evolve as Sasquatch. So there are versions of Earth that are filled with Sasquatch. There are no Homo sapiens around at all. That's one effect in one parallel reality.
And as far as the work that's happening now with the hybrids and everything, what does the other Earths look like where we don't become involved in that?
Well, there are many, many, many versions of Earths that are not involved in the hybridization agenda, so you would have to pick and choose which way you want me to describe, because there are thousands upon thousands of versions of Earth that have nothing at all to do with the hybridization agenda.
And they still have a positive outcome.
Yes. Just as many have negative ones. Anything you can imagine.
Okay. So those that are attracted to the information that you're sharing are probably part of that, and they're at some level they've chosen that part,
Yes.
that version of Earth to move
Yes.
to a positive way.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Because it's always about free will.
If that wasn't the choice, we wouldn't be here talking with you.
Right. I see.
We'd be talking to another Earth, as we are also doing.
How many Earths do you speak with?
Personally, 135, but other members of my species talk to others as well. And that's only on our planet.
Yes, because one person was also asking about why there's really no other Sasani channels that come through or that are part, doing like you're doing.
There have been, as you know, and there are, but not necessarily in the same way that what we are doing here. There are other ways in which people can bring through Sasani energy without even necessarily knowing that it is Sasani energy because of their own connections to our people. They may not necessarily have a name or a label for it, but they're bringing those energies through because they have a connection to do so. And they have a counterpart in our society that is helping with that. It doesn't always come through vocally.
So the fact that as far as a vocal communication and your role as a first contact specialist, are you in that sense the designated being to communicate with the planet in a verbal sense like this?
With your version of Earth at this time, yes.
So you're kind of the more senior Sasani?
If you want to look at it that way, you can, but that's not exactly accurate the way we look at ourselves. We have a purpose in focusing this version of Earth in a certain way that will help accelerate and perpetuate the idea of open contact for those that are willing to align with that particular vibration. And in that sense, we present less so that you will not necessarily be confused.
That's very helpful.
Yes. This is the way it usually works with most civilizations. At a certain point, they need to focus down to fewer and fewer representations of our energy so that they, again, don't get confused about what vibration they need to align with if they are interested and willing to align with our vibration.
Cool. How do we interpret repeating numbers like 111, 222, etc., if a person's seeing a lot of that?
Yes, well, we have answered this many times. It's the idea of demarcations or road signs that allow someone to know when they get that kind of numerical synchronicity that they are in alignment with the vibration of their higher mind, and to come from the feeling that is generated in those moments when they recognize that synchronicity. That's their true vibration. Stay in it. Stay in that magical space. Stay in that feeling and come from that feeling in following your passion in everything you do with regard to that.
And for individuals that are interested in like the hollow earth idea or inner earth civilizations and everything, you've mentioned that these are parallel realities that's not present in ours. What are some beneficial or meaningful ways to connect with those individuals? And does it have relevance, in terms of our...
Well, it can have relevance for certain individuals on your planet, but again, it just depends on their path. So again, if they follow the formula and it's relevant for them, then they will likely encounter those kinds of beings in those parallel realities that many people think is actually physically inside your hollow earth, but isn't, because your earth isn't hollow. But people can go through portals and think that they're inside the earth physically when in fact they have transitioned to a parallel reality that is in its own dimension and has nothing at all to do with being physically inside your planet.
Wow. So can you tell us more about some events that have a high probability of happening in 2023 relating to ET contact?
All right, well, the first thing we wish to say is that many people have a little bit of a misunderstanding in thinking that 2023 is the year of open contact. It's not. It's the beginning of the window of open contact that will take a few years. So the idea is that it will start slowly. But one of the first things you may start to notice is more reporting of UFOs, more closer sightings of UFOs, again, to gauge how used to those sightings you are getting or not. So it can begin with the idea simply of more sightings, closer sightings, seeing how you react or respond to those, and then there may eventually start to be sightings of UFOs on the ground, more sightings of beings from the UFOs temporarily before they take off. Things like this, again, bit by bit, more and more, to get you used to the idea that we are here, that you're not alone. So this is a process. It's not that UFOs will be landing everywhere in 2023. We have never said that. It's the beginning of the window, the beginning of the process that could be a decade long in getting used to the fact that we exist, that we're here, and that you're not alone.
Is it also to the idea that if somebody was from 500 years ago and they came to our civilization and saw planes flying around in the sky and jets, they would be utterly shocked. And for us, the idea of seeing spaceships flying around would be kind of similar to that idea, yes?
For most of you, yes. Not always, but for most of you, yes. Even though many of you think it wouldn't be a paradigm shift in your consciousness, trust us, it will be, because it's not exactly what you think it is. It's not the typical sci-fi scenario. There's other things that go along with it that are multidimensional in nature and multi-leveled in consciousness.
That sounds exciting. Want to say anything more about that?
No.
Okay. And so how is first contact moving forward and accelerating when we have a war like what's happening in Ukraine right now?
Again, you're getting things out of your system. You're putting things on the table to decide what kind of a reality you really prefer to experience. So first you have to see what it is that you don't prefer so you can more clearly see what it is that you do and take action in that direction. So again, it's no surprise that there may seem to be an increase in what you call negativity and violent action. But again, it's not about that so much as what you decide to do about it.
And will one of the markers that we're ready for open contact be that we don't care that much if it happens or not, because we're enjoying our lives so much as they are and living in a state of high passion and excitement?
Generally speaking, yes, because it's not about the idea of us bringing you what you prefer. It's about the idea of you choosing to live in the moment and follow your passion and create the reality you prefer as an experience, which will then make you more vibrationally compatible with having open contact with beings that are of a similar frequency. So yes, it's not about the idea of us rescuing you or saving you. It's about you bringing yourself to a safe level, a same level, a sincere, honest, understandable level of appreciation, gratitude, and living your life fully in joy that will actually do the trick and make you more accessible to those beings, such as our civilization, who then can find you more easily because you are more vibrationally compatible with us.
So I guess the idea that the more that we bring heaven to earth,
yes,
the more a side effect will be that we have contact with higher dimensional beings and ETs.
The more you create heaven on earth, the more you can interact with all the denizens of heaven.
It's wonderful.
Yes, it is.
Is the moon hollow and used as a base for the Galactic Federation to discuss Earth topics?
There are bases on your moon from different ET civilizations. The moon is not hollow per se in the way that you think of that. But there are large caverns, there are large areas of underground bases on the moon.
Are there bases on the dark side of the moon?
The opposite side of the moon that faces you is not always dark. Yes, there are bases on that side, but it's a misunderstanding to say that it's always dark. It's only dark in the sense that you can't see it from Earth, because Only one side of your moon is always facing your planet because it is in gravitational lock.
When they went to the moon, did they become aware of any of those bases?
They became aware of the presence of extraterrestrials on the moon, yes.
So our returning to the moon, how does
Yes.
that fit in?
It fits in wonderfully.
It's the perfect timing, huh?
Yes, it is. Now, it could have happened sooner, but again, you had some things to work through. So for what it is and the process you're going through, it is perfect timing.
And the fact that we have telescopes now that are incredibly clear and able to penetrate such deep levels of space is reflective of the idea that we are getting more and more ready to experience what's available.
Yes, yes, because as we said before, it is your own telescopes and your probes that will discover the idea that life does exist elsewhere. And even if it's simple life, the idea will open you up psychologically to accept the fact that life exists elsewhere and that you're not alone. And that will make a major difference in your collective consciousness.
And back to the idea of contact, when people reach that higher state of being in excess of 200,000 cycles per second, and they're ready for open contact, how might that happen if they live in an urban environment versus being in a remote place?
There have been many contacts that have happened in urban environments. Just because they're in an urban environment doesn't mean that they can't be private.
So similar to what happened with the channel, where his family members that were present with him in the vehicle were able to see your ship, but no one else could.
Some others did, but most did not. So yes, it can happen that way. Or again, remember, beings can simply appear inside of your house or your apartment. No one outside has to know what's going on inside.
If the gift of open contact is all of our true history, and we get to decide how we want to relate to that, then are we not currently living the result of what we call our true history?
You are currently living the result of the past you are creating now. So when we say that you're going to be given the gift of your true history, we're talking about a level of existence where you'll be creating the history that is necessary for you to receive in that version of Earth.
When you mentioned before that there are other parallel Earths that you're interacting with,
yes,
can you tell us about one of them that would be a lot different from ours?
One is primarily based on the idea of experimenting with shifting borders. In other words, on a semi-annual cycle, the idea of so-called borders is really just a notion of experimenting with different social structures for a period of time and then dissolving those borders and shifting again to different forms of experimentation of social structures. That is one of the versions of Earth that we are interacting with.
And as far as the idea of location of an atom,
yes.
This person's saying they're confused regarding the principle of location being an aspect of an object in space-time.
Yes.
Where is the demarcation of an atom's location point stored? And is it in the electron cloud, the nucleus? And also, how do you keep an atom still in order to assess its location between 2 points?
We don't have to keep it still. It doesn't operate that precisely. We operate within the idea of the quantum uncertainty, and that's sufficient enough. We allow physical reality on a quantum level to exist as it does. The vibrations are so minute, they do not prevent us from simply creating a matrix of locations based on a 0 point that we start with, which is a particular point on our planet. So the idea is that we simply extrapolate out of that what the likely locational variables would be from that point forward, stretching out into space-time.
Okay, and a long time ago, you gave us what are called the sacred circuits.
Yes.
And one person is asking if you could tell us exactly how the sacred circuitry affects our brain just by watching them, and
Well,
what the
again,
mechanism that's taking place.
yes, again, it is a permission slip like anything, and those that are willing to allow themselves to shift their neurology into ways that are more vibrationally compatible with extending their senses into other dimensions will gravitate to the sacred circuits as a representation of the kind of shifts they already wish to make. The sacred circuits simply provide an idea or a template for them to align with that would allow the circuitry in their brain to shift in the way that they say they prefer it to. So again, remember, sacred circuits don't cause anything. They are a reflection, like anything in physical reality, of a idea you already have in your consciousness, but don't necessarily know what particular permission slip to utilize in order to accomplish that. The permission slip of the sacred circuits allows for more ease in understanding, oh, these are going to allow me to change the circuitry in my brain more easily because they represent that idea.
Okay, and this person is saying that they recently discovered moldavite, and it's the only crystal that they've seen have such a dramatic effect on people, both physically and mentally. Is there anything you can tell us about moldavite that would help us understand that?
It strongly represents the idea of increasing possibility and probability of open contact because moldavite has come through space. So it carries the vibration of extraterrestrial frequencies with it. And thus, in recognizing that, those that are primarily oriented to the concept of extraterrestrial contact will feel as a permission slip an especially strong pull to that particular mineral because it represents that idea of connection to space. All right?
Okay. And how would you recommend that we think of the Anunnaki, since there was a renegade group of them that helped to create us? And what would be an appropriate way to relate to them? Should we be grateful for them? What?
The way to relate to this idea is to save it for another time.
Oh, that question.
Yes, and that will be enough for today.
All righty. Well, thank you so much. You know, we all really appreciate these interactions and all the information you share and being able to spend some time with you. So thank you so much.
It is our passion and our pleasure. And now please prepare yourselves for the meditation that goes along with the window, the door, and the gate to increase the probability of open contact for those that choose to align with the frequency. Enjoy. And now, we would like you all to become, if you wish, relaxed, breathe deeply and easily, and let go of the cares of the day. And use your imagination. Become comfortable. You may use whatever visual or auditory cues you wish to add to this, if you do wish to add them, or you can simply go along with what we are about to describe. So, allow yourself now, at this point, while still breathing deeply, gently, regularly, and feeling relaxed. You may have your eyes open or closed, whatever you wish. Imagine that you are in a house. It can be the house that you actually are in, or it can be another house. It doesn't really matter. But the house is Earth, where you have been living all your life. You have not ventured outside this house yet. You have lived your entire life in this house. All of the information that we have shared with you in 40 orbits has allowed you to open the curtains on the window, open the blinds, lift them up, and see through the window to the outside, recognizing that there is a yard outside of this house, recognizing that there is a fence at the edge of the yard and that that fence has a gate in it. But you have never ventured out that. You have now glimpsed through the window, which you haven't even opened yet. You have glimpsed the yard, the fence, the gate, and know that you must walk through a door to get out there, but you have not done that yet. For now, allow yourself to look out the window, to see the yard with its trees and grass, or whatever way, shape, or form you wish to imagine the yard, and see the fence with its gate in whatever way, shape, or form you wish to imagine the fence or wall with its gate. But know that you have not been out there, and you have not been beyond it. Allow yourself at this particular moment, in being in this house, to turn around and look at the house. Look at all the rooms you have been so familiar with for all this time. The rooms you have lived in and loved in, experienced process in, positive and negative. And know that this house has held you in its embrace. It is a familiar place, a comfortable place, a warm place that has allowed you to experience many things, both positive and negative, a place for you to grow, to learn. But now you know it is approaching the time when you are willing to venture outside this house. It doesn't mean you cannot go back in, but you realize that you have always lived in this house and have never been beyond it. So for now, as you peer out the window, allow yourself to imagine that you are beginning to notice, even if only in ghostly or shadowy form or out of the corner of your eye, something that is not quite there, that there are other beings out there that peer in the window in a flash and disappear again. They're there and then they're not. This ties into why we gave you the exercise of putting a cardboard cutout of a hybrid or a gray outside your real window in your real home, to catch them out of the corner of your eye now and then so they become more real to you, that they are there, even though you can't always see them. This connects to this port now, where you are looking out this portal, out this window, through the glass, seeing something peer in now and then, and whether or not you are startled, or whether or not it makes you smile, or whether or not it gives you a little fright, doesn't matter. You are beginning to recognize that there is something out there, beyond the window, outside the house, in the yard, and beyond it. Fleeting glimpses are fine. Or if something appears very solidly, that's fine too. But it brings with it the recognition and the realization that there are other things out there, other beings out there, other consciousnesses out there, other lives out there. Be they past, present, or future, it's all now. Be they extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional, or simply parallel reality beings, it's all now, and it's all right. You are just beginning to recognize the depth and richness and complexity of the tapestry that exists outside the house. Allow yourself very gently to open the window, to spread it open, raise it, whatever way it works. You can even break the glass if you wish. But open it so that the air comes in and you start to breathe the outside air for the first time. And you start to sense new aromas, new scents, new realizations and recognitions of other realities, new realms, new atmospheres that blend with your own inside the house now. Allow yourself to get used to this idea of this rarefied air, this mix, this blending of many different atmospheres. Allow yourself to breathe it in deeply. Do not be afraid. It will not suffocate you. It may feel thick at first. It may feel too thin at first. Or it may be just right. But allow yourself to know that you can breathe it. It can sustain you. And as you do so and get used to this and continue to breathe deeply in this experience, in this meditation, in this visualization, in this creative imagination, you feel yourself growing bolder, stronger, and more willing to go outside. And so you walk to the door and you open the door. And the light floods in, and at first you may shield your eyes, but you'll get used to it. You'll get used to the different colors and frequencies of light that are outside in the yard, and you step out through the door into the yard. And now your world has expanded beyond the house. And you look at the yard and all the things in it, the trees, the flowers, the grass, the rocks, whatever may be there. You start to realize this yard has been there all along, though you have never stepped out into it. You have never stepped through that door. But now you have. And you look at it and appreciate all of the beauty that's in this yard, all of the interesting things, some of which you may or may not even recognize. But it is in your yard, and you have stepped into it. You have realized that it is a part of your house, a part of your reality. And it transitions you to what is beyond the gate. But for now, you allow yourself to absorb what is in the yard and appreciate and explore and examine and breathe in all that is in the yard, whatever it may be. And you start to feel invigorated and refreshed and uplifted and energized and powerful, knowing you have expanded your reality, expanded your universe beyond the house in which you have always lived and never left before. By having opened the window and breathed in the new air, by having opened the door and let in the new light. And now you walk to the fence, the wall, whatever it may be, and you walk to the gate. And you feel its textures and know that it has always been there to act as a barrier of protection for you until you were ready to go beyond it. It has defined your world and the limits that you have imposed within it. At first believing that nothing existed beyond this wall, beyond this fence, beyond the gate. But now knowing that if there is a yard beyond the house, that there also might be something beyond the gate. And you allow yourself, gently, cautiously at first, tentatively, to open the latch in the gate and swing the gate open and step out. And there before you, filling your senses, expanding your senses, almost in disbelief, but believing it because you see it and experience it, are the sights and sounds of all of the cars whizzing by on the roads that stretch off to infinity. They have always been there, but you have never seen them before like this. The colors, the sounds, the sights, the feelings of all these beings going to and fro. And you look up, and more vehicles plying the air, the planes, the helicopters, the blimps. And you allow yourself to take it all in and see and know that there is a much bigger world beyond this house of beings going about their own business, now and then stopping to look at you and recognize you and nod to you and welcome you into this new world, into this expanded sense of reality, into this multiverse of the comings and goings of an infinite number of beings. And you stand there outside the gate, on your sidewalk, on your grass, and take it all in. Knowing that is there now, you can go back through the gate, back through the yard, back through the door, and into your house, for now, but knowing that's all there and that you are free to look out this window, free to walk out the door, free to pass through the gate, to take in and behold this expanded, infinite reality, this multiverse of all that is. And you are brimming with excitement to explore it, brimming with excitement to invite it into your house to share, to exchange, to bring it in as guests, as companions, as friends. Invite it in for tea, invite it in for lunch, invite it in for dinner, and invite it in to dream and share with you the infinite imagination of all that is in its expressions, its infinite expressions of all the reflections it is. You are now back in your house, but it has a different feeling now because you know it is connected to many other houses, many other buildings, many other roads that lead to infinite places of delight and curiosity and imagination. And you anticipate with great joy the journeys that you will begin to take, knowing there is now more to this reality than just your house, than just the yard, than just the gate. We will now take you on those journeys in the months to come through different exercises and different meditations and different permission slips. But for now, rest easy in the comfort of your own home, knowing that your idea of home has been many times expanded beyond just the house of earth. But for now, relax and absorb what you have just seen and experienced. Let it all in so that you may properly prepare yourself for the journeys to come, into the beyond, into the infinite, and into the unknown. Breathe deeply and be comfortable and welcome home to your new home. Our unconditional love to you all. Be at peace and be excited about the journeys to come. Aveo and good day.